Hey everyone, it's the Hey Poopy podcast. What that booty do from poop to pleasure to health. Hosted by me, Dave.
And me, Ellen. We are two curious people removing that stigma from your stinker. And why are we doing this? Because we love laughing and learning about butts and helping them to be the best they can be. And on today's episode, we have a person who's into scat play. Yes, this is John Mark, our scat play aficionado.
Yes, he's a giver. This guy, I mean, it was, first of all, it was a first for us. We've never had a scat person on the show before until now, and he delivered big time.
I've always wanted one. I've tried to email and search out a bunch of them, and we've gotten very close, but he is the first person who's loud and proud and happy to talk about poo.
Yes, a complete open book. I mean, he really made it, approachable, let's put it that way. And I mean, for anybody out there that's even slightly interested in this, you're not going to want to miss this episode.
We're not here to yuck anybody's yum as long as you are consenting adults. We don't give a shit what you do with your shit. Just enjoy yourself. Like this clip right here.
I was particularly excited on this occasion because it was with one of my favorite buddies to play with. It was a Saturday afternoon around 1 o'clock, and we ended up playing for several hours. It was probably around 5 or so. He's like, okay, I had got to get going. So we were getting washed up, and I hear this loud knock at the door. I went to open the door, and as I did, the entire outside hallway of the building was completely filled with policemen and firemen. And I'm in a towel because I had just gotten out of the shower. Meanwhile, the scene is still set, like everything is back in the room. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And they were like, oh, we're just checking in on your neighbor. We got a call that there was a really foul odor coming from her apartment. And so we're doing a health check. And the third neighbor thought that he just presumed that she had died.
Oh, yeah. That's some spicy stuff. And we have got more in this episode to offer you.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of extra stuff coming out in this episode, so you do not want to miss it. And if you want to find out more information about us, people we interview, things we talk about, go to heypoopypodcast.com. You can find out all the information you need to know about this show, especially about what that booty do.
And on to this fabulous shit show.
Are you soft as a panda, yet strong as a bear?
Bamboo is redefining toilet paper for the future, being more sustainable using bamboo fibers that grow 16 times faster than hardwood.
Bamboo is soft to the touch, yet strong so you use less TP with each wipe.
Septic safe, unbleached, and unscented for all those delicate parts.
And get 10% off with our promo code HeyPoopy at GoBamboo.com.
Go Bamboo, spelled GOBUMBOO.
We give a sheet about our future. You should too with Bamboo.
Hey Poopy, how you doing? Hey Poopy, how you doing?
I'm just, trying to find a place with like-minded people to talk about like-minded things about me, about poop and stuff.
Hey Poopy, how you doing? Hey Poopy, how you doing?
Oh man, what's this right here? Is this a podcast about poop?
Yes. It is Dump Day.
Yeah.
It's another episode of The Amazing.
It's the Hey Poopy podcast with
Dave.
John Mark Owen.
Yes. And
I'm sorry, I thought you pointed to me.
Oh, no, it's okay. No. There was that. I like that actually.
Takeover.
We could do that. We could maybe fold that into the show now.
I'm coming for your gig.
Yeah. I like it. I like the enthusiasm.
But the regular hosts are
Dave
and Ellen, and this is, oh my God, I totally forgot to look this up because I am so beyond excited
it's
about
episode 134.
Ooh.
Oh, no. It's not episode 134. I totally messed that up.
That's okay. It's episode 138,
yes.
But it will always be number 2 to us, our favorite number. But I was so excited, I looked up everything else except for the episode number.
Oof.
Because as Dave has said in the past, Ellen, myself, have looked forward to interviewing certain kinds of people to this show. And this show, we finally got one of those people that I have been dying for 138 episodes. So, but before we get into exciting news with that, let's go into our check-in. We have the wonderful John Mark here, and we love to check in with our guests first. John, how have you been pooping recently?
Regularly and with a firm consistency. So I'm glad to report that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And did you poop today?
I did.
Nice.
How many times?
You know, I am a one and done kind of guy.
Oh,
Fortunately,
Nice.
it's always in the morning, pretty much around the same time, usually after about half a cup of coffee. And I benefit very much from good digestive health, I suppose.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we should
What
also
about you two?
you're very
good.
efficient.
I've been good. We should also mention that Trixie Minx put us on to you. So anybody out there listening to this show want to know how do we know John Mark Owen?
Yes,
Trixie
the
Minx. So
queen of
thank you.
teas.
Yes. So thank her for the introduction, and we were very excited about that. But back to our check-in. I've gone to the bathroom 3 times today. Pretty normal, like a number 5-ish. And yeah, they were all very quality. And I'm suspecting I'm doing a late night run tonight, so I'm expecting to do another movement, if you will, later tonight. So we'll see. But yeah, pretty standard run-of-the-mill shitting.
Yeah, Dave is very consistent with his quality of poo and the amount of poo. So if there's been a day where we're recording, he's like, I haven't pooed yet. I'm like, oh my God, stop the presses. Something's wrong.
Yes.
But I had to get up kind of early this morning to go into the city for a doctor's appointment. And so I chugged some coffee really quickly, hoping. And as I was drinking the coffee, I was like, I'm going to be late to my doctor's appointment because I know my poop is going to become calling. And of course it did. But it was like a Bristol 2, Bristol 1. It was just like some nuggets. And I was like, give me a fucking break. And so I like rode my bike to the subway. Thankfully, like doctor's office, I don't have no problem shitting in a doctor's office. They've seen the worst of it. So I was like, I'll probably shit somewhere in Manhattan. I ended up not, came back home, and I have this weird thing. The minute I sat down at my desk to get some work done, poop
It was
had
ready.
to come. Yeah, it's like this mind-body connection. Like, it just was like, okay. And then I made this like very beautiful textbook, but nothing huge, Bristol 4 that was like maybe about 6-7 inches long when like a good consistency, but it was just like one cute little turd.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's still a lot of day left. There's still a lot of day left. You can potentially have another shit. Who knows?
Exactly.
Sure,
But-
so you had like the preamble and then the
Exactly.
event. Yeah.
Yes.
The aperitif.
I had an appetizer and then the entree.
Yeah. The amuse-bouche, the appetizer, and then
But one other thing, and I know this isn't really poop related, but I have talked about this before on the podcast. I have a shiwi that I absolutely adore. And if you don't know what a shiwi is, it's a funnel where a woman can put it up to her vulva and pee standing up like a man. And last week I was on a photo shoot in the wild and I showed the model. I was like, I'm going to pee with my shiwi. And I felt so good about myself because I've only done this maybe 30 times.
Okay.
This time it failed me and I peed my pants.
Not the shiwi.
what happened?
And I'm literally,
It's just like
idea.
does the seal not on correctly, or
I literally spread the vulva lips apart, and all of a sudden I could just feel it coming down my thighs, and I realized my entire underwear and shorts were sopping wet. So I literally stood there peeing my pants in front of my model as she was watching me, and I was like, great. Could I not be any more embarrassed?
I mean,
And I'm in the middle of the wilds with no change of clothes, no way of showering myself off. And I was like, well, I guess the rest of my day is ruined.
oh,
Bring
Smell
home
like piss.
in traffic and shower myself off and change. So I didn't poo my pants, but I peed my pants.
But-
Pretty solid.
nothing worse than a traitorous shiwi.
yeah,
Yes.
you gotta bring those extra pairs of clothes in the car just in
I
case.
guess now officially I do because obviously I can't control myself.
Yeah,
Or you could just make the transition to the diapers.
Oh, well, I do have a huge bag full of them that I got at my dad's care facility that they were like, do you want these? I was like, you have no idea how much I want those.
You're like, I will always refer to you as a benefactor. This is
yeah. I mean, it's an option. But now we all checked in. I mean, Ellen, like Ellen said at the top of the show, very excited. I am super excited to hear about some of these stories and just the whole everything about it. I just want to know. I mean, we're gonna get into it, but I'm just like really excited for this episode as well. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, but you know, I think we're ready to do this. Yes, yes.
He did the like Mr. Burns from Simpsons fingers touching.
Yes. I mean, it's yeah.
So, as Dave kind of touched on, John Mark is somebody that was brought to us by Trixie Minx. So if you had heard that episode, you might have an idea of what we're about to talk about. But John, besides your poo, can you tell us what you do? Or
Yes.
what you're willing to tell the audience what you do?
Indeed. Now, would you like me to reference my my daily life as in employment, or would you like to reference what I do with poo?
It could be anything that you feel comfortable
Both?
with, really.
All of the
Yeah,
above?
you know,
It could be-
whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Whatever
well,
you're comfortable with.
To start, just a quick bio on me. I am an ex-New Yorker. I lived there for many years, almost 22. I was in the ballet. I was a professional ballet dancer and also other forms of dance as well. But my focus was ballet. And then I started to get to retirement age and got my master's degree and was doing some choreography as well as managing a ballet company and
Wow.
growing tired of the whole piecemeal life. I decided, all right, I want to try to find something else that would be a little more consistent without the hustle of having to piece so many things together. So I moved out here to California, where I am now, and I've gone back to school and I'm pursuing a nursing degree, BS in RN, and hope to have that accomplished in about 3 years.
That's amazing.
3 years time. So I'm kind of in a midlife transition, if
Right.
you will, from careers.
But that's
Yeah.
great, though. I mean, I'm glad you're going to be helping people. So
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. I wish I
You
could
be one of those frontline workers that we love so much. So
That's right.
thank you
That's-
for that so much.
such a dire need for it. And especially, I would love to say that for me, this was an altruistic decision, but really it's just, I got to be able to support myself. And
Yeah.
the medical field is very consistent. So I was able to see my skill sets could marry one another in this regard, and I think be very successful. So that was the motivation behind that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it'll be good. There is a dire need for nurses. And you're right. They're extremely hardworking. And especially during this past year and a half, it's been
Oh, yeah.
really inspiring to see their tirelessness and just push to do what they're doing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So then as far as poo is concerned, I actually happen to have a sexual proclivity for scat play and for poo related sexual acts, which is how Trixie Minx brought me to YouTube, because I had not heard of your podcast before this. So she was like, well, they want to talk about it. Have you ever talked about it? And I said, no, but I would.
Nice. And again, Trixie, thank you so much.
Because we have come close to talking to people who are into scat play, but we have not landed our big whale, so to speak, until you.
Yeah.
So you are our white whale. And hopefully it's just the beginning of many more. So.
Right on.
Yeah.
I love it. Anything to kind of erase the perceived shame around the sexual act of scat, I'm happy to contribute to, because I don't think that there's any reason why it should be shied away from if you like it.
Right. Now, would you say this is like coprophilia? Is that the term correct? Am I using that correctly? Coprophilia. The article is about paraphilia involving sexual arousal and pleasure from feces. So I guess that's kind of like
Coprophilia? I've never heard that well.
coprophilia. Well, a coprolite is like a hardened turd, so I guess that's where they're getting the copro part
Okay.
from. And
Probably some Latin word,
yeah, and philia, I'm sure, is something to do with like
fetish.
No, it could be like a condition, or not a condition, but like a thing, like a. God, I'm not using my words correctly today, but you get the gist of what I'm throwing down. It's also called scatophilia or scat. So yeah, it's in the same thing. I guess coprophilia is the more like the scientific
Technical.
term. Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, I was Googling when we were talking. So I was Googling. I'm like, I wonder if this is a thing. This sounds. I never heard of this until today.
Well, actually, funny enough, as long as it's been a part of my life, I have never really done any type of technical research on what has been studied about it, if it's been considered by fetishists to be a particular thing. So I've never really sought out any type of of explanations for it or studies on people who have proclivities. It's really, for me, been very experimental and just going with what feels good and learning from that,
Gotcha.
And I always say, if as long as it's two consenting or two or more consenting adults, I don't give a fuck what you do,
Yeah.
18 and older, like whatever gets you off, hey, more power to you. At least you found it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, whatever makes you happy.
It's so true. And life is way too short to deny yourself something that feels good and that you really feel exhilarated by, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess we start from the beginning. Like, how did this whole thing start? Like, what was the genesis?
Honestly, I don't know. And I have thought about that question, knowing that I was going to be on this podcast, but also just in my lifetime, I have thought, what brought me to this? And I can tell you, I honestly have no idea. As early as 12 or 13, right around my masturbatory years, or like awakening, my sexual awakening, it was just intrinsic. It just happened. And it took me a while. I had a little bit of a hard time with it at first because I was raised in a very evangelical family. And so our upbringing was centered around the church and its teachings.
Right.
And so when I started, I had like triple whammy sexual awakenings going on, because not only did I feel guilty about being sexual, but I was gay, which made me feel even worse. And I liked to play with my own shit, which made me feel so bizarre. So in the early days, when I was a young teenager, it was almost cyclical. I could almost make it a timed show where I would catch the spirit, if you will, to jerk off. I would find whatever material I could to excite myself while jerking off. I would cover myself in my own feces. I would ejaculate and come, and suddenly I would be filled with such overwhelming guilt about what I had just done. So I would clean myself up and I would beg and pray for forgiveness, that this be taken away from me, that I'd be made normal, that I wanted to not have these, spirits or whatever tempting me to do this activity. And I'd light candles and I'd have prayer circles and just promise that I would never do it again. And then 2 hours later, there she was, covered in her own shit, jerking off again. So it's
like, here we go again.
I have to ask though,
Where are you, God?
yourself in your own shit. Is that like, would the act of pooping be the turn on?
No, I think...
Like the fact that even 2 hours later, like you had a new group of poo to work with,
do it, right? Well, it was many faceted. I was really kind of abandoned when I was in the throes of it, almost like a fit, if you will. I really like smearing. I really like being covered head to toe, total full facial, just, almost like putting war paint on in a way.
Okay.
And seeing myself covered in that fashion in the mirror. It's like, I can't even describe the rigidity of my erections when I see that. It just, I don't know. There's something just exhilarating about it, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, the act of feeling it come out. Sometimes I would keep my underwear on just so that I could feel it come out, and then the warmth of it spread in my crotch, and then sit on it so that I could just feel that kind of encompassing or enveloping warmth, I think would be a better word for it. It just felt so good. And maybe the fact that it was so frowned upon, I don't even know if I thought it was frowned upon, because I don't know if anyone knew I was doing it.
Right.
But that I shouldn't be doing it maybe added to the excitement of it.
Yeah. Like very taboo.
Exactly right. So I don't know where that started. I don't know what happened in my life at some point to awaken that sense in me. I have no idea. I really can't point to one influential factor.
I mean, I've heard of babies doing that in the crib, where they poo in their diaper, take it off, and spread it all over themselves. Like, it could have happened to you at like 1 year old, and you just had the most fun you ever did. And then when you were going through puberty, you were like, your subconscious was like, remember that one memory when I was one?
And it's like, wee!
Yeah.
Oh, maybe so.
The lizard brain
Maybe
turned
so.
back on, and you're like, oh yeah, this is fun.
There's that warmth.
So yeah, so roughly 12 or 13.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Is when it started.
That's when it started. Okay.
Yeah.
But then also the fact that you came from this evangelical background. I honestly know so many people who came from religious backgrounds and they literally just do a 180 in the rest of their lives, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that I had a very Catholic mother and now I'm a pornographer is like a perfect example of that, you know? So I feel like when we are told we are not allowed to do something, we want to do it even more. So.
Suddenly, exactly.
Oh,
And
completely.
that's
There's been sociological studies about that. There's been, I mean, take like drugs, for example. People like that, like really said like it's illegal. It's like, ooh, it's kind of this like really dark, forbidden thing. And people just want to do it. But I also enjoy talking about this stuff because it's on the fringe of like, you know, obviously society. I'm not going to say normal, but you know what I mean?
no, of
Society.
course, of course.
You know?
No, and in a way, frustratingly so, because current examples, and I'm sure there are myriad that I don't even know about, but the available media that is online to look up is varyingly good in quality. So sometimes you can't even see the action. Sometimes it can be very clear, but the action not caught necessarily. So there's still, I don't know how large or far reaching the scat community is, but there's still even a lack of proper portrayal, if you will, online that doesn't look bootleg or, you know, hurriedly caught or
Gotcha.
unproduced. You know, it's very amateur what I have seen and witnessed out there. So even inside the community, I think it remains to be a fringe thing. You know, it's pretty small niche.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had Brandon from Rieger, which is a fisting app on, and he says he knows a lot of people in the scat community, and he asked a bunch of those people because fisting and scat play can sometimes go hands in hand.
Right.
And he talked to a couple of his scat people, and they were like, "No, we're not interested in coming on." And I was like, "They can be anonymous. They can write us an email. They can do whatever." And he was like, "Sorry, I tried to ask them." So I do think even with something that you have this sexual fetish for, that it might be even hard to find those other people, you know, because of that, because there is such a taboo to it.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And even inside that, so there was once, I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been involved with it in some time, but there was a website called Scat Boy. And when I was in New York earlier in like the mid-teens, there was a group that would actively meet at a bar. And we would have these little socials where you could actually put the person that you've been chatting with in front of your face in a setting that was really not pressurized, but understood to be a mixer for these
Right.
interests. And so it was more like a bar setting. So you could have a drink and talk with guys. And the amount of play inside even a group that facilitated the freedom of exploration of this range from those who were really just observing to those who wanted to partake, but be the giver, to those who wanted to, like me, who were unabashed and wanting to be, you know, dive into a pig pen of whatever was there. So you even had ranges of people in that group that, you know, they would only give or they would only feed or they would only, you know, there was never, it's just varied, I guess. Like
Yeah.
varied.
And I mean, I don't want to assume, but I'm guessing the people that you were with too was a pretty good swath of culture, or is it kind of like, I mean, I can imagine like a banker, and then someone
That's
who's
right.
like, you know, works in like a barista. I don't know.
Right, exactly. Honestly, you know, I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that. I know that there were several artists who were involved. I know that there are a few people that I would consider professionals, you know, either lawyer or doctor or banker, or I don't know if those were their positions, but
Gotcha.
I would say professional men.
Right.
But mostly everyone appeared to be pretty egalitarian, if you will, where we were all dressed very similarly, you know, almost fetish wear, not quite, but you know, there definitely was a look
Gotcha.
that we were all looking to, and you know, the kind of timid excitement of people being really turned on by this idea, but not really sure how to socialize in the idea because it is so unspoken. So I think there are a lot of factors that maybe kept some people away from being able to be as open as they normally would.
Right.
But a curiosity still persisted.
That would have been great if, like, I don't know if you heard this guy, Gigi Allen. He was like this old like punk rock singer in New York City from like he died in the 90s, but he used to like shit himself and cover himself on stage. And like eat it and like throw it at the crowd. And like, I mean, not that would be funny. Just like imagine this guy going to the mixer, like just dressed like in a leather jacket covered in shit. He's like already to go. You're like,
He beat us all to it.
Yeah, like, hey buddy, this is just a preview. Like we're not
Right.
You don't need to show up literally all like dressed head to toe in it. But
And then this thirsty bitch in the corner being like, you better have more of that.
Yeah.
That ain't coming from nothing.
totally. Oh my God.
I have so many questions about this mixer. One, was it just men?
It was just men, gay, and I believe predominantly gay men. If there were non-gay identifying men, then it wasn't discussed. But I believe they were all gay men.
Yeah, because we've talked to female dominatrix who have pooped on men.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, like, in the scat play world, is homosexual, heterosexual, all that stuff, is that part of it? You know, like,
Right.
do you have a preference? Do you prefer only male poo since you're a gay man?
Indeed. Now, when watching scat pornography, I don't mind heterosexual or homosexual. That doesn't bother me. But to actually play with a person, I want it to be a guy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm attracted to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious because, like, I think of poop as we all poop. Is there a
Right. Where's the line?
Is there a lesbian scat play group that we don't know about? Or a heterosexual? I mean, there must be. I feel like there's something for everybody. There has to be, like,
I
out
feel
there.
Sure.
You know?
Well, a lot of the predominant, a lot of the videos that you'll find online are mostly European. There are some American-made videos, but a lot of them are European, and they come from the Germanic world, so either Germany or the Dutch-speaking Netherlands or Denmark, or that area seems to be who are the predominant proprietors of the images that you're seeing.
They run that
I feel
shit.
like that's like very stereotypical. Like we all think of Germans, we think scat play, you know?
Right,
So,
you know?
Isaac,
there was a comedian talking about that exact thing. Like, you know, he's like, he's from the States, but he did his whole routine in a German accent, pretending like he's like, yeah, we're Germans, we're chill. He's like, you know, that whole war thing, that's, you know, but look, I like smearing shit all over me. It's like, you know, that's what's up, dude. We're like really cool. Like it's like anything to take away from the fact that like we're not Nazis. We're just
Right. Fuck what you
we're
heard.
just cool, laid back people, you know. Which I thought was hilarious.
No, but also, like, I do know that there are so many laws in the United States about certain kinds of porn. So maybe scat porn is completely illegal here, where in Europe things are a lot more easygoing. Like any blood in pornography is completely legal in the United States, which boggles my mind because period sex is a real thing.
It's a thing, right?
Yeah, like many heterosexuals, lesbians, anybody who bleeds out of their vulva, they've had sex and it's normal, it's natural, and it's fine, you know?
Right.
So, but the fact that the porn community is like, no, that's illegal.
Absolutely.
So,
Right.
you know, so I'm wondering if it's the same thing with poo. So,
I don't know, but if there's any Europeans out there that want to talk about this, give us an email. Or you can use heypoopypodcast@gmail.com because I would love to know that. So,
Actually, I am curious because I don't know that either. I don't know if it is something that would be, if you would be followed up on, should you produce that? I don't know.
It is a fascinating question. I mean, like just, you know, who, like the demographics, it'd be interesting to do a whole like stat line of that, like to see like, you know, if who would actually like, you know, I don't say admit, but like, you know, like really just be willing to like open up about it.
Right.
Yeah, because we've interviewed plenty of dominatrix, and there's so many guys out there who, like, they call it hard sports. They want to be, and I have a dom friend that we're going to bring on the podcast in a couple months that we just have to spread them out because we interviewed a dom like a month and a half ago, and she has this amazing ability to, every time she eats, she poops within 30 minutes. So she can have 4 hard sports guys in a day.
Wow. And I bet that's top dollar.
Yes.
That's
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
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 That's like a.
So it's like, it's really interesting that like 4 separate guys are all signing up from one day, you know?
Right. And then what is getting them off about that? Are there psychological aspects? Does it have to do with just the enjoyment of the act, or is it humiliation, or is it a power thing, or I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so
all the above kind of thing. I mean, my question is like, I mean, it's just this for you. You said it's like the whole thing covered head to toe. Do you have a preference for like consistency of the shit? Because to me, it's like the smell of everything. That's the thing that really gets me like every time.
Right.
Where some people it doesn't bother, obviously. But do you have like a harder turd, or like kind of, or whatever you get is like what you get?
It depends on it. Honestly, it's so funny, but it really depends on the chemistry of the person that you're with.
Gotcha.
I find that where I have the most resplendent memories have centered around harder consistencies, because then you can shove them back inside you. You can shove them in the other person. You can suck on them at the same time while kissing. So it just gives you a lot of different options.
So I'm not judging. I just
at all, John.
No, indeed. Don't worry. Don't worry. I know it's a lot.
Like,
I'm not judging. It's just, like I said, it's a little hardcore.
But then when you get into, and there are plenty of guys that I know, which I have done for them and they have done for me. Plenty of guys, you can freeze it to save for later, so you can have more when you encounter one another in case you're not really providing much that day.
Right.
There are a lot of different preferences, but I would say if you're in the times where I have been in a group setting where we're just in one plastic covered room and we have buckets of poo, the consistency isn't really a thing.
Right.
It's more about the creating the scene.
Gotcha. Yeah.
For what that is. And so
you're painting a
for
scene.
me, the olfactory senses, when that kicks in, when that desire and lust, if you will, kicks in, I don't even smell anything around.
Really?
It's almost a neutral.
You're like, I'm in. Like, you're just like in.
Right.
Like,
it's
gotcha.
like it cuts off. And actually, I don't know if this happens among all people who are into the scene, but for me and some of my buddies, we actually laugh about, don't fucking touch my dick while we're doing this, because if I come, it's over. Because it's almost like
yes,
it's almost instantaneous. The minute I come, it's like, okay,
shut it down.
But like,
you gotta have like another room to go into to like decompress.
I think this is a testosterone thing, because I was hanging out with my partner and another couple recently, and both of the men said that is the minute they come, and no matter what they're doing, from like watching porn to jerking off as a kid, they say all of a sudden there's this wave of shame or this like, I need it to be over.
It's like,
you're like, what did I just do?
And I'm like, what? I mean, like, as a woman, I don't know what that feeling of testosterone, because I have an orgasm and I'm like, awesome. Can we do that again? But
right.
It seems like, and the men I was hanging out with were 2 straight men. You're a gay man. Like, I just want to know what that is, those levels of testosterone that just like, they raise so high and you're in such euphoria. And everybody thinks that the orgasm is the euphoria. No, it's everything building up.
No, it's that, exactly. It's that tension, that place.
Yeah, the buildup.
The buildup, where it's just like you feel unstoppable. You feel outside of yourself. I feel that way anyway. And, many years ago in my youth, I was very cum based. Like, okay, I want an orgasm. And anymore, it's the prolonging of that tension that I find is where the enjoyment is. And then the power of the orgasm is even more, because there's been so much build up to that. And I don't know, I've heard other people say the same thing, where you almost, it's like blinding in a way. The build up is just like, I can't even think straight. It's own thing.
No, totally.
It's like, I am just physically facilitating something else that's happening, and I don't understand it at all, but that's what it is.
With my wife, if I like come, I'm not like thinking, I'm not feeling guilty or anything. I think it's more like solo acts. Like, you're just kind of, if you're jerking off, you're like, I got shit to do. I'm still dicking around with this? I mean, it feels good. Like that's just my take on it. I don't think like when you're in the actual act and everything like that doesn't bother me. I'm not like, oh my God, what are we doing? I just mean
I
like,
understand that. I'm just saying like they were mostly talking also about masturbation as a kid and even as an adult. But I'm just like, what is that about testosterone? Because I feel like for my portion of the population that has mostly estrogen going on, and I have some testosterone. Like, if I masturbate, I don't think I have shame afterwards, or I don't have that moment where I'm like, ugh, okay, now I got to clean up this mess, you know?
Right.
no, I just think, I mean, for me, I just think like sometimes I was doing it, I'm like, oh my God, like that was like, I could have done some other thing. I don't know. It was fun in the moment. But it's also definitely like, all right, I can't be laying around here all day, like, you know.
Right, exactly.
You know,
it's like, but it is, you know, people call it the one-eyed monster or whatever, and there is that sense of, I don't know if you experience this, but it's almost terribly distracting. Like until I can pump out some semen, then I can't focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
I've got to clear my mind, and I don't know if women experience that to the same degree, but there's this. It's like, it's almost like just utility at that point. Like, okay, I just have to get about my day. Let me do this and let me go on. And it's really not even sexual in a way. It's just,
it's getting that poison out.
Yeah. It's like a comfort level. It's like right before a tea kettle goes off, but it never goes off. And you're kind of like, oh my God, like I got this pressure out, and like, it's all you're thinking about. And it's like kind of ruins your day.
Yeah. No, I get that. Like sometimes an orgasm is just to get on with the rest of it. But I'm also talking about with your fetish that the orgasm is not the end all. It's the it's like how everybody always says it's not the goal, it's the journey, you know?
That's right.
So it's your journey that you want to prolong. And so you kind of touched on with your meetup and with you said something that I think shocked Dave a little, was the in and out of the mouth thing. So are you eating it too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's definitely ingestion. And then there's transfer between, depending on, you know, if you're sucking it out of your partner's butt, or if you're putting it in your partner's butt by your mouth, or if you're, you know, using your mouth to put it on places on their body that you find to be erogenous. Yeah. And so sometimes there is not eating. Sometimes there is only the act of feeding someone. Sometimes there's a mixture, and sometimes that doesn't happen at all. So it really is the person that you're with and the chemistry that produces.
Two questions. One, have you seen Two Girls, One Cup? And is that like the Oscar Academy Award winning like video? I mean, I know, I get it.
I stand here before you. I stand here before you. No, I have never seen that video. I know of it, of course, and I understand it's a huge moment in pop culture, but I never watched it.
It's something. I've
never seen it.
It's
You've never seen it either?
No.
Yeah.
It took me a while because like the only videos you could see are the reactions to it, like reaction videos. But then when I actually saw it, it was something. But
that involves many different bodily fluids, right?
Oh, it was a lot. I mean, like in the size of the shits were. I mean, it looked fake almost, but.
Regardless I've heard rumors that it could be fake.
Regardless of it's fake, it's coming out of your asshole, and it's still like, you know.
Right.
But one of my favorite comedians said, he's like, I watched that video, and he said, when I hear guys, and these are two women in this video, so if you're attracted to women, he's like, if I hear one more man say that they can't find a woman, I'm like, look no further than this video, because there's somebody for someone like out there. So it's like you're gonna find that person, because that video exists.
It's true.
You know,
definitely.
And my second. Sorry.
Dave, you have to show it to me sometime when we get together.
I don't know if I can even find it anymore.
I can't even find it. Yeah.
I saw it I saw this like years ago, but it's heavy. I mean, it's heavy when you especially didn't, you know, you're not like, okay, like you've only seen reactions. You're like, okay, it's not that bad. It's like, whoa. But,
right.
And the women are gorgeous. They're like gorgeous. Like if you're attracted to women, you're like, what? Like, so sorry. My second question, you touched on it a little bit when you're getting together with your play partner, and you have the room set up. So like what, I mean, we're talking, is it like ceiling to floor, plastic, like everything's like, you know, and how involved is that? How long does that take usually?
Yeah. Well, actually, I will tell you, when I first started hanging out with guys to do this, it was a little slapdash. It was like, okay, here's a little area I've prepared over here, and this is where we'll keep it. But the more that I got into it, and the more that I started having multiple partners or forming little groups to do this, part of the anticipation of what was going to happen in the scene became very much part of the turn on.
Right.
So the fastidiousness with which I taped my lines on the wall and how I covered my furniture and, making sure that edges were taut so that there wasn't possibility to trip or for things to puddle, that became almost as much as part of the turn on as the actual act itself, because there was almost like it was like, setting the scene and making it right. And that it could facilitate abandon, I think, was part of what was really exciting about it. I mean, I'm getting excited now thinking about taping off a wall. So
wow. I mean, that's like, this is like Christmas Eve. You're putting on the packaging, like around the wrapping paper on the presents. Like when I remember that feeling of a kid, you're like, I cannot wait till this goes down.
Totally.
Wow.
Totally. Because if you have areas that are very loose or that have wrinkles, you could trip on that, you could tear that. Things could happen where it could either, be a mess later to clean up.
Right.
Rather than just folding the plastic, or actually something could happen where someone could, get hurt if that were the case.
It's so interesting because it seems so OCD and not OCD at the exact same time. Because an OCD person would not be into scat play, Right. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you have to be that way because now, has this ever happened where maybe you forgot a section to tape down or something got ripped and then like some of the material, if you will, got like onto a carpet or a chair, or you're like, okay, time out. We got to patch this hole up.
Child, twice. It happened twice. And I sure did. Covered everything. Covered not one piece of bare skin. And I'd be like, y'all carry on. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And I was just like, and I will tell you, if you have never invested in fabric protection on your furniture, do it for these very reasons, because I was able to simply just swipe and clean, and the fabric protection took care of no permanent stains. So it's like, okay, this is great. That's why I put that on my furniture. That's why.
Pro tip.
So get that Scotch Guard, whatever you need, and then all you have to do is wipe it up, and it's gone. There's no further concern.
Wow.
Okay, so but as Dave asked, kind of, I think you alluded on it. Is it like a Dexter kill room? Are you doing like plastic tarps?
Yeah, I just go and get drop cloth from a hardware store.
Okay.
9 by 12 or whatever size. And usually in the room where I was most active in that type of scene in New York, where I was the one responsible for having people over and setting up the room and facilitating the play. But yeah, finding, I guess, the largest tarp that you can take down and that's still pretty good.
Thickness.
The thickness, exactly, so that it's not a very flimsy one that could tear very easily.
Yeah, that would drive me insane. I'd be like, "What? Okay, we got to time it. We have to stop. There's a giant streak on my floor." Okay. Now, following up, have you ever gone to someone else's house and been like, "What the fuck? You guys suck at this. Like, suck at the preparation." Like you're kind of judging a little bit. Like you're like, And
2 occasions. On one, it was a hotel room, and this guy I had met through Scatboy, actually. We had never met before, but we wanted to play, and got to his hotel room. And I guess for lack of resources, he just ran to a dollar store and got these plastic shower curtain liners that rip even when you just pull them across the thing. But we were in a hotel, so we didn't really think that much about it in the middle of the play. But I definitely was like, this was a little foresight.
This person has no style.
See, you didn't travel with your preparations, but okay.
I'd be like, this is not going to do. This is going to rip in 2 seconds. So
exactly. And then the guy just thought it'd be fine if we just used paper towels wherever we were. And I was like, I mean, we can try, but then that clearly was not good at all. But it didn't prevent us from doing it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Now it's a mess.
And that goes into Trixie's story with you. I think from what I understood, and you can tell the full story if you want to, but Trixie said that you were in an apartment and a guy came over and you guys set up the whole scene, and then the police were called because they thought there was a dead body.
Oh my god!
Before you tell the story, this would be like, every time I think about this would be like a scene in an awesome Pulp Fiction type movie. Like I already see like how it's shot, like where the camera angles are. I mean, it's like genius. So sorry. Continue.
No, and I love this story. Oh my god! Of course she would say it. Of course she would bring this one up. So actually, this was.
I like how you said she'd bring this one up.
This one.
And more than just the one.
Yeah. Multiple police have been called to the area.
I have a rap sheet. I have to be careful.
Oh shit.
No, but I was particularly excited on this occasion because it was with one of my favorite buddies to play with. We just have a great chemistry and really get along very well. And so I was excited he was coming over that day. So again, I had taken great pains to line everything and it was all ready. So when he came over, we could just get right to it. So we did. And it was a Saturday afternoon and he came over, I think around 1 o'clock, and we ended up playing for several hours and just had a ball. So it was probably around 5 or so. He's like, okay, I had got to get going. He had to do something that night. So we were getting washed up and I hear this loud knock at the door. And I had one of those, I was up in Harlem and I had one of those apartments that when you came into the vestibule, you would turn around and there was an L-shaped hallway. That's where all the rooms were.
Okay.
So I came walking around that hallway and to the vestibule, and I went to open the door. And as I did, the entire outside hallway of the building was completely filled with policemen and firemen. And I was like, whoa, and I'm in a towel because I had just gotten out of the shower. So I'm in a towel. Meanwhile, the scene is still set, like everything is back in the room. So fortunately, it was the last room on the hallway. That's what you emptied into. So you couldn't see it from the doorway. But I mean, nothing had been cleaned up in that room yet. That was going to be my task once he left. And so I opened the door and hallway filled policemen and firemen. Just like, I would say probably 11.
Whoa.
10 or 11 of them. There were so many guys, and all in tactical gear, whatever it was. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And they were like, we're just checking in on your neighbor. We got a call about your neighbor. We just want to make, have you seen her? Is she okay? And I said, Miss Gary? And this was the neighbor who lived next to me, an elderly woman who I didn't look after, but I would help her with her groceries or maybe take her trash down for her or whatever. We became friends as we lived next to one another. And so we kind of kept an eye out for one another. And there was a third neighbor on the hallway, just the three of us. So we all kind of knew each other's comings and goings or whatever. And so I said, oh my God, I saw her yesterday, but I've not seen her today. Is everything all right? And the policeman said to me, well, we got a call that there was a really foul odor coming from her apartment. And so we're doing a health check. And I was like, oh no, meanwhile, my door is wide open. I'm standing there in my towel looking at this policeman who fears my neighbor is dead. And I said,
but the odor is coming from your apartment.
I guess. And so I was like, oh my God, I hate to hear that. Well, please let me know. I'm in here. Please let me know if there's anything I can do. I have her phone number. I called. So I shut the door and to go back in. And I tell my friend that was there with me, so something's going on outside. I think there's concern about my neighbor. I'm not sure. So maybe just hang out here for a second. And he was like, okay, no problem. So then a few minutes pass and I go back to the front and another knock at the door. And I mean, there's all this loud banging going on outside. And so I go back and I look, they are taking axes and chopping through her door, trying to get in because there's no response. There's no, no one is, and I'm just like, what is going on? What is she okay? And they're like, well, we don't know. We can't get in touch with her. And I looked out and I saw her car. I was like, well, her car's outside of my living room window. And I was like, I don't know. So anyway, I shut my door and it all kind of calms down and they go away. So it's been maybe 45 minutes or so. And so I tell my friend, okay, I think it's probably fine that you can go now. So I escort him out to the hallway. I'm on the 3rd floor and he goes to walk down the stairs. I give him a kiss, and sitting on the window ledge, my building was built in a square. So the courtyard was in the middle, so windows looked out onto the courtyard. So they were sitting on that ledge. And as he left, I turned to them and I said, well, what made y'all come here? Who called in that accident? And that was when they were like, well, we were just told about a really foul stench that was coming from.
Oh my God.
And the 3rd neighbor thought that he just presumed that she had died, I guess, because he hadn't seen her in a couple of days. And so that was the day that my scat play brought in the FPD walk.
Oh my God.
Wow, that is amazing, actually.
It also says something about like how you said you can't smell it. Like you literally cannot smell it, but the entire building thinks there's a dead body.
But apparently there was exactly. So now I will say, as a follow up, it turns out that indeed something was in the wall that was dead.
Oh, okay.
So I am still unsure if my activity is what prompted him to make the call, or if that, because it was like 2 days later that we got
like a
noticed
rat or something.
Some kind of animal had died in the wall, and so we got notice from the building that the wall was to be opened up, and they had to go in and take it out. So the water was going to be turned off, and they had to do all these different things, and it was just like, so I don't know if it was me or if it was the dead. I still don't know.
Maybe your little get together was like sort of the last straw that like something just wafted like into that animal and then like into the other person's wall. Who knows? But that is the most craziest story.
And I will say, and this is a part of the story that I often leave out just because it came to nothing. But on my refrigerator at that time, so when I opened the door, you could see into the kitchen. There was no door on the area for the kitchen. It just went straight in. And the refrigerator was nearby. And I had a lot of various magnets and articles that I found inspiring, pictures or whatever on the fridge. And so I had different magnets of like leather daddies that, in various states of dress. And then there was a little white one at the bottom that said, I heart porn. And so during one of the times that the door was open, when I was looking to see what they were chopping down, one of the cops was leaning against my door frame and he was looking at that magnet or the kitchen. And he said, oh, I really like porn too. And I was like, huh? And I said, oh, well, what kind of porn do you like? He was like, oh, I really get into two girls and I love gangbang situations. And I was like, oh, I like gangbang situations too. Is that something that you get into? And then he got distracted by whatever was happening over here. So nothing came of it. But I was like, if this turns into a double whammy Saturday afternoon, I am going to be like, so.
That's you're going to be like, don't go back in that room though. You can hang out here.
In the salon.
Yeah. We'll just close that door over here. Here we go.
Oh my God. That is.
Wow. That would have been epic though, if you did hook that up somehow.
It was.
Oh my God, that is crazy. I love this story so much. This needs to be a cartoon.
Yeah, oh my God. We need a new budget.
Yeah. Woo. Oh wow, I love that so much.
So funny. Oh my God, that was great. And I still am in touch with my partner from that day.
Oh, amazing.
Just an incredible guy, an artist himself, and just a lovely person. And he remains one of my favorite play buddies.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, all I could think of is the dead animal. Like maybe it was attracted to other scat plays that you had, and maybe it was crawling through the walls trying to get to you.
It's like, what's that wonderful odor? What's that?
That's where my head goes.
It's like, yeah.
But going back also to smells, I have to ask: has anybody ever farted around you and it's been a turn on?
No. Do you know what? What's very funny? When talking about farts, I am not uncomfortable, but it is not something that I like to talk about.
Ah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I can kind of see that though. You know, because it's like one so like heavy and that's other thing is kind of, it's almost like, why bother with a fart?
Right. Of course I joke, but it's one of those things. I don't know. I've always been very private about that myself. I try to either hold it in until I can get away to fart, or I excuse myself if I feel gassy and have to fart. It's not something that I guess you could say I feel uncomfortable talking about. I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird because
You're such a gentleman.
You're definitely not gonna like that. Sorry. I had to. You're like, interview over.
No, but it's so funny because I feel similarly with belching. I don't know, those two acts I just really can't stand.
Oh, I hate
like
burping too.
Yeah,
I'm not a big. My wife burps really loudly, and it drives me insane. Insane.
I do too.
Oh.
I'm a big belcher. I don't know what it is. I shock myself sometimes. I'm like, how did that come out of me?
I think sometimes too, it's so close. It's almost like it's like the preamble to like a puke. But I think that's what it is for me. Like I'm just like, oh, like it's just, you know, I think like, do not throw up.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I am John Mark, is there anything else that maybe you want to add to this, or questions that maybe we're forgetting to ask you, or another story?
No, I can't think of any. I would say to anyone who is questioning their own pleasure from scat play, or maybe has tried it and likes it but doesn't have the community for it, or doesn't really know where to start to explore it, or I think it might be a little bit more prevalent than people talk about, first. But secondly, as you said in the beginning, as long as it's something that's bringing you joy and you're not forcing someone to do it, then go for it. You know, I will say that I enjoy it very much. It doesn't happen daily in my sexual life. And indeed, where I am right now, I haven't participated in a scene for about a year. Oh, wow. So it's been a while since I've had had the chance to play. But if you do find that chance, take it, because it is a really intense pleasure that doesn't come around so often. So I would say try it and see. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I guess I have one other question, and we always say don't yuck anybody's yum, but as I was saying before with dominatrix that we've had on the show, have you ever paid for it, or is in the gay scat community it's just always available?
I've never paid for it myself. I've always been able to find it when looking for it. But I suppose then that would be, are you near a community that would have it, you know? Yeah. I found that in New York it was really prominent, so I could find it pretty easily. But I know in other places it's not, you might have a harder time. So then you might have to pay for it if that were the case.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm all for my sex worker friends, make the money and your hustle. And but to me, it seems like in the gay community, it might be more available for free. And in the straight community, men who want to get pooped on by women, it seems like it's got to be something that's transactional, you know?
Exactly.
Which is also very interesting if there was ever psychology behind it, you know?
Indeed.
Speaking of which sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, speaking of that, on that exact topic, we had another dominatrix on. Mistress Ashley talked about her first time in Houston trying to perform, take a dump on somebody. She couldn't do it. But the guy was like wrapped up like with cellophane on a mattress. And he was like some Houston banker. His wife was coming home in a few hours. And like his whole idea was that she's going to shit on him. He's going to eat through the plastic and then like get his way out of it and clean everything up. And like, so yeah, I mean, I imagine like that person, I mean, he works at a bank. He's not going to be like, let me just go out to Saturday to the local pub. Yeah. I mean, you have to go like you got to pay someone for that. You can't, there's no way to like.
Right. If for nothing else but discretion.
Yeah. You can't be Venmoing someone that like, hey. So yeah, it's got to be like kind of back pages, I guess.
Right. Exactly. I don't know. I would say, again, the site that I used to be a member of, Scatboy, really produced a lot of connections for me. And even people who did not live in New York City, who maybe traveled to New York City, and we would meet up, we would form groups and bring a couple of what do you call it, rim seats, and set up 2 or 3 and have some feeders and have some ones giving the shit, and yeah, so you kind of cast the scene.
Yeah. But
I don't know what would happen in smaller towns, if it would be something where you would have to do some kind of sex tourism to participate. I'm not sure, but I feel, just from talking to guys casually here and there, I do feel that it might be a little more prevalent than is given credit. Yeah.
I bet you there's a lot of that going on in some weird backwoods towns. Like there's tons of that stuff, like repressed people that in their real life are like real uptight assholes, but like behind the scenes they're like, oh, all right, let's do this, like wild shit.
Right.
So,
wait, I have one more question. Is there ever been a time where you were physically attracted to somebody, but then not attracted to their poo, or vice versa? Especially at one of these parties, like you're like, "Oh, I'm not physically attracted, but his poo is great," or
Definitely.
Oh wow,
that's so interesting.
One guy who was just, in my definition, a god. I mean, he looked like a big old minotaur. He was this massive, muscular, hairy beast, and that makes me melt immediately. I just thought he was the bee's knees, and the initial connection was really, sparked and really excited. And then we went to get into it, and it was his poo was extremely runny and just like loose and just not, and I was like, oh my God. And so then suddenly my ignorance in putting this beastie masculine thing on this pedestal that surely he's going to give me the golden shit, and then it comes out as like this watery mess. I'm like, Lord,
you're like, what am I gonna do with this?
All kinds.
Yeah, you're like, well, fascinating.
That throws me into another question. Like, what about prepping for these parties? Like, I mean, maybe he prepped, but he did too many enemas or laxatives or something. Like,
yeah, maybe so. I don't know what he did, but that is definitely consideration of. A lot of my diet happens to be filled with a lot of like rice and proteins, be it chicken or protein supplements or broccoli or, stuff that's fibrous but solid. So that is a consideration. Sometimes I'll think, okay, well, maybe I should eat a little more cheese or something that would make you a little firmer, before an event. I mean, and I don't know how many guys like this, but I myself, if I know that I'm going to hook up with someone in the coming days, I can hold mine for like 3, 4, 5 days until the event, because the feeling of it building up inside of me is just as exciting as actually excreting it and giving it to them. It's so it depends on the act. Yeah.
I just imagine.
That is the most shocking thing I think you've said this entire interview. I cannot hold my poo for 3 to 5 days. That's physically impossible.
It's like a sub eroticism of the experience for me. Yeah.
Wow. That's a long time.
I call it farming, the farming of it.
Yeah. So I thought you were going to say sometimes, like, before I'm about to play with somebody, I eat like a bunch of like just bootleg burritos from
you don't know what's going to come.
Bag of Dorito chips, like a huge bag of like nasty Dorito chips or something. Like what? It's just like junk food. Like you're kind of like, this is gonna come out.
Yeah, because we had a dominatrix on, and when she prepares for her hard sports guys, she says that she eats Church's fried chicken and blackberries, and within 12 hours, it will happen perfectly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So she did like an elimination diet. She like just checked out everything in her diet for weeks, if not months.
It's like so specific.
Sure she knew what, and she said that those 2 things are without fail. Like
would do it. Yeah.
Crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I think obviously everyone is so individual. I noticed that if I were to change, usually my diet is pretty consistent. I'll do a shake before the gym, and then I'll come back and I'll have a big breakfast, and then a couple hours later I'll have like a little solid lunch of some sort, and then like a couple hours a little solid. So I'm always kind of pecking. So it builds up through the day, and then in the morning I flush it out, and then the tank gets filled again. So that for me, I just know to be true. But I have a buddy who really has to kind of abstain from anything before his activity, and then do something really quick beforehand so that he can be ready when the time comes. So I think it really just depends on your digestion and what you can do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, I will say, if you have any other stories or anything that jogs your memory or just whatever, anybody else's crazy stories, you can for sure come back on the show anytime you'd like and discuss. You can even leave us a voicemail if you want at 203-998-5579. That's more for the audience, but
Okay.
try to
Yeah,
cram
or
it
if
in there.
anybody from who's listening has any more questions from John Mark, you can email us at heypoopypodcast@gmail.com, and we could totally have John Mark on again.
Yes, which we'd
And
love to. You're right.
Yeah,
Mike.
this has
my
been-
pleasure.
This time has gone by so quickly. I feel like
I
I
was
want to
just looking-
keep you here for
Yeah,
a million
we're whipping
years.
through this.
Like,
ripping through this our interview, but like all
This
things,
is great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of
It's been
course.
really-
Yeah.
we have 2 more segments to go, 2 quick ones, and this one's hard because like you pretty much, you're not afraid of anything. Like in my mind, so
he is a
farts, farts and burps. But in this episode of Shitty Choices, so your shitty choices are, your 2 choices are raise 4 children, just raise them, or shit your pants once a day for 10 years.
Whoa. Well, I know what John Mark's going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is already like easy for you, John Mark. So it is kind of like most of these questions are like when I was going through, I'm like, oh yeah, I know the answer to this one.
Literally the hardest one you've ever given me. I cannot. Every single shitty choice, I'm like, oh yeah, it's obviously A or B. This one, I'm like, neither. I die.
Well, do either of you have children?
No,
Oh,
I don't have children. No,
that's the problem.
I got a vasectomy just to make sure that I don't have children.
We have fur babies, but they don't. I don't have to send them to college.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like this is a hard one too. I thought this was really hard because like the idea of shitting my pants once a day for 10 years is a nightmare. But also 4 children, that's a
4.
nightmare too. But I guess I'm gonna have to go with fuck. And the way I set these things up, it's just like this is like life. Like you don't know when the shit your pants is gonna happen. It could be like in the morning. It could be like and then as this is happening, you don't know if it's gonna last for 10 years. But in this particular scenario, it's 10 years.
Exactly.
So it's a decade.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna have to go with shit. I might have to go with shit my pants. Because the 4 kid thing is a little bit too much. Like
Yeah.
like 1
That's
I can
a
handle.
lot.
1
And
maybe.
shitting your pants is only 10 years. 4 kids is more than 18 years.
That's for
Yeah.
life. That's for life. And like again,
That's life.
I try to keep these choices like kind of vague in the sense where like, yeah, it could be like, what if you had quadruplets? Or what if it was like, like one, like they're spaced out. Like, so I'm gonna have to go. I mean, I guess I'm gonna be wearing diapers for 10 years because I feel like at least like, yeah, I'm gonna go with the diapers. And I'm sorry, see your pants for 10 years.
As you were talking about it, I was just thinking the same thing, but I'm going to up you one. I would then find somebody on the internet to sell those diapers to and turn my shit into gold.
Oh, I didn't even think
Because
about
you could in
that.
a minute. A minute.
Oh yeah, you could.
If I'm shitting my pants once a day for 10 years, that's like
Yeah.
so many times. I'm just going to talk to my Dom friends and be
I
like,
feel like,
I
yeah.
have a never ending
Supply.
full of diapers.
I mean, maybe that's a new career change.
Yeah.
I feel like for you that would
I
work
even, like-
easier for you. For me, I think a little harder in a
Yes.
sense. Like if I wasn't like in that world, like what am I gonna? I'm just shit my pants. Like it sucks. Just every day you're at work, you're like fuck.
Here
But
it
at the
is.
same time, I might lose my partner because last week I even told my partner, I was like, if somebody wanted to pay me $1,000 to DM with me about my poop, I would do it in a second. And he's like, I am not dating somebody who gets paid to talk about their shit. And I was like, but you kind of are. I just do it on a podcast. So it's the private part
Yeah.
that you're not comfortable with.
That's right, that's
I think it's
right.
like the more like you're digging into it a little deeper than this. But okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously, John Mark, I knew the answer to. We know where you're going.
But should we let him answer? Just
Sorry.
to-
I don't want to assume anything, but
No, it would be was pooping in your pants option B? It would be
Yeah.
pooping in my
Yes.
pants. Yeah.
Okay. So we're all going with option B.
Okay.
This will be a good poll question. I think it's going to be a hard one for a lot, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that love kids, so that's an easy. It's an easy one. So, okay. So we're going to get on to our news section. And we're going to get right into it.
Okay.
John Mark definitely hates you. I know you hate that.
I'm blushing.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so this thing is hilarious. This story is so fucking funny. I saw it on CNN. I saw it on this thing called TechCrunch. So they're talking about the Roomba. And the new Roomba that's coming out right now is using AI to avoid smearing dog poop all over your house.
Oh, God
which I didn't even think about. I mean, we have ours is called the it's like the dumbest name. It's like a vacuum robot thing, but it's not the Roomba. It's called Roborock, which is a hilarious name.
Roborock.
Roborock. So anyway, all these people were having these problems in 2014. For example, this one woman had told her story about how she awoke to an excrement-fueled nightmare, and her Roomba vacuum had hit her dog's poop, but then got stuck on a cord and was doing concentric circles of shit all over the floor. So, they cleaned everything up. Her husband tried without any success to clean the Roomba. They bought another one, and the same thing happened again. So, cut to now, and the team that makes iRobot or make the Roomba, they have a new cleaner coming out. It's the J7 that has an AI that can spot dog shit or like poop. And the other related article to this, they were showing like people in these labs making like fake poop because like to show the robot like don't go over that.
Do not touch this.
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't even think about this. Like it's crazy. Like, this Roomba is going to smear. And like, there's videos all over YouTube, by the way, when I was finding this story. You can see of like the Roomba just like destroying someone's white carpet.
Oh my God! So wait, is the Roomba going into the litter box or wherever?
No. It's just
I
like
guess the dog just poops on the floor.
If a dog has an accident,
And then the
or like
Roomba picks it
your
up.
pet has an accident, the Roomba doesn't. I mean, the new one will, but the old one doesn't know the difference. It just thinks like, okay, and it's gonna go. But it's so funny because even on the videos, you see it like it's so hilarious. You see, like, it's like the anticipation. Like, you see the Roomba getting close, and it sort of stops. It goes around a corner, and then it comes back again, and it just hits it, and it just smears it everywhere. It's just like embedded. Yeah.
And like some Roombas are extremely expensive.
Yeah,
so not
$850.
only is your carpet and everything else destroyed, like you have to throw that out.
I didn't even know.
And that right? How do you clean it?
I had no idea. Okay, this one says if you go to the iRobot's website, it costs $850 or $650 if you don't want to have the base. I'm like $850. Could you imagine you buying two of those things and that same thing happened? I'm like, I'm getting my money back because this is bullshit.
God, that is so wild.
Yeah. So
I know it's not poop related, but supposedly somebody once had their Roomba going off and their door was open and the Roomba like escaped their home. And they couldn't
That's pretty
find
funny.
it. And they were
I've
like,
never found something to hit against.
oh, that's hilarious.
and they like had signs in their neighborhood. Have you seen
My
my
Roomba?
Roomba?
I mean, it's gonna run out of batteries at some point, so it's gonna, but that's hilarious. But yeah, so
Well, I feel like I may be wrong, but I feel like Trixie has a similar story. I'll have to ask her about that. This might be conjecture, but I feel like she was watching a friend's dog while they were out of town and something like that happened. Maybe she told me, maybe she relayed a story to me about someone. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm making that up, but I think Trixie might have a story like that.
I mean, when I read that, I'm like, I mean, I have a cat and she's really old now and she shits on the carpet every once in a while on the floor sometimes. Or she gets stuck in her fur. So it's like, like near the litter box. And I didn't even think about that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine coming home and you're like, what is that smell? Just like
It's everywhere.
Yeah, our vacuum's just like, what's up? I did the job. I don't know what that is. I thought that was dust. Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Yes.
Totally,
Like, so now
totally.
that's like the only thing that's been in my mind the last, all day. Cause I'm like, what? When I saw that thing, I'm like, no.
You're like, I gotta throw out my vacuum robot. It's over.
No, our vacuum, I love it. It's really good. But now I'm like, I gotta make sure that this cat is, cause like we'll turn it on. We'll go outside the house sometimes. We'll
Right.
come back and it's just like, I'm like, what? But with that ridiculous but funny story, John Mark, thank you so much for being on our show.
It's my pleasure.
It was
Thank
a
you so much for having
complete
me.
pleasure. I mean, like as Ellen said, beginning of the show, like this is her Christmas, quinceañera, bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah. I forget which one.
Many of these.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I mean, like, I don't get me wrong. I love almost every single one of our interviews. There's been a couple that we are not as excited about, but I would say the majority are amazing. But when we get to meet somebody like you, John Mark, who just knocks it out of the park.
Oh, yeah.
with things
Home run.
that we are so interested.
Yeah.
It's like, tell me more.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many things to say about it, but actually there is one. I will just a quick little story. You had asked about smell, and normally, like I mentioned, it doesn't occur to me until the fact or until the event is over. But there was once I was corresponding with a guy who lived in Minneapolis. This was when I was in New York, and he lived in Minneapolis or somewhere nearby. And we both were really turned on by one another. And so he was like, well, I can send you some shitty drawers in the mail if you want. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. So he did. And I received the package in the mail. And as it was all like hermetically sealed, if you will. And then as I like went to cut it open, I cut the first edge of the tape, and the smell emanated through the room. I was like, oh God, okay, this, because I wasn't necessarily in the state of mind. I was just checking my mail, and then like that hit, and I was like, okay, this is a fantasy best left undone.
Yeah.
I had to write him back and say, look, I really appreciate your willingness to do that. And it was really sexy that you did. But on this end, it was not received as I imagined. And I don't think I can do it for you.
At least you were honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's a trial run, you know? You're not going to know until you do it, right?
Exactly.
Oh, so great. But thanks again. And if you have anything to promote, plug, please let our audience know. Or
Thank you. Indeed, I don't. I'm a pretty analog person. I don't have any social media presence. I'm no longer on Scatboy. So really all of my things come in person now. So
cool.
If you see me, say hello. And if I see you, I'll say hello.
Excellent. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well,
and wait, one last thing before we go, because I always ask all our guests this, and I'm so sorry that I forgot till the end. Toilet paper, over versus under?
I'm an under.
Ooh, Dave.
I'm an under as well.
Are you under, Dave? Yeah. I don't know. For me, it just looks.
Me too.
It looks ready. It looks nicer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I like it too. I'm with you on that 100%. So we mainly get overs. Like our overwhelming majority is over.
It's over. Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's a good note to have. We could put that in our database. We're a small but proud community.
A small but proud number. Exactly.
Oh wow. Well, thanks for everybody for listening, and thank you again, John Mark. You're fantastic.
It's my pleasure.
And happy pooping, everybody, and enjoy your butthole.
Hey Poopy Podcast is brought to you by Perfect 4 Entertainment, produced by Dave and Ellen, with executive producer Stormy Leather, edited by me, Dave.
For more information, go to heypoopypodcast.com for episodes, merch, and more. Follow us on Instagram at Hey Poopy Podcast and Twitter at Hey Poopy. Theme song by Jordan Perlson. Hey Poopy.